see how this works. Alright, y'all. As of now, I'm be showing y'all what's some of the advantages and disadvantages of the double and single action, and as to why you would choose which or one or the other. First off, the main reason as to why would I advise this is specifically for beginners, or a lot of people when they get a gun, unfortunately they don't do a lot of research on them, they don't watch reviews on it, they don't try to learn it inside out due to the lack of safety precautions you may have to take, as much as you would if you were to have to get a fire striker, which I said, which just makes it a little bit more perfect for beginning. I'm going to show a little bit of it. For example, when it's a double single action, you could choose how light and quote unquote sensitive the trigger is. As you see, when it's in single action, as it's meant to be, is meant to also increase the accuracy and make the trigger lighter, and causes less of the, I guess you could say, let's say the fishtail effect, which I told y'all before, is when you align the sights and you pull the trigger and put it down, and by the time the gun goes off, you've done pulled on the trigger hard enough for it to shake a little every time when you pull the trigger all the way back. I just exaggerated it just to get the point across, but still, that you just don't know how much of a big upgrade compared that is to like a striker fire. For example, I said on this channel before, I could carry this in a pocket with no holster, which is just me, you know what I'm saying? I'm not advising everyone to do that. You never know what altercation you could get into, but due to its 12-pound trigger pulled on this weapon, and specifically the Versa Thunder 380, I feel more than safe carrying this around. Like I said, this goes in a jacket pocket, it goes in, if I wanted to, a back pocket, or for those who prefer to, not prefer, but carry without a holster just due to their situations. For example, there was one time I broke my holster and I still wanted to carry a weapon, and I obviously didn't want to get caught. So I got the single stack of this and I put it in my pocket and no one noticed, and luckily, just due to this type of shorts that I have on, the pocket kept it straight up in the position, whereas if I were to go into my pocket, it's damn near felt as if it was a pocket holster keeping it in place. Once again, that's just for me. I don't know about for everyone. I'll say another advantage I'll say you could use in self-defense. It gives you that extra split second to decide where you want to put a bullet at before it may be too late compared to a fire striker. Maybe when you're tussling and you're potentially around people, you maybe don't want a bullet to go off potentially somewhere you don't want to, or hit someone you don't want it to hit, or end up having to pay in for anything that you end up putting a bullet hole through. Like they say, every bullet has a lawyer attached to it. And that's just some way, I feel like overall you should start considering overall before, you actually go outside with a firearm. It may not always be as simple such as, oh, okay, I tell the policeman, or I just tell these couple of people, what exactly what happened, or me just simply reporting the incident, and next thing you know, you just think I could walk away scot-free. I also hear that they could take both your weapons, or however many weapons you have, despite it not being used at the scene, and it'd be a lot worse if you didn't have the, let's just say, the ability to keep yourself cool enough under pressure when it's time for you to let off bullets, for you to work on your shot placement, which, if we're being realistic, a lot of us don't have the ability to have. I know a lot of us have the John Wayne syndrome or John Wick syndrome, when you put a firearm in your hand, and next thing you know, you think you could take on the world, or just damn near be prepared for anything. But that same way of thinking is the same way that got a lot of people killed, or a lot of people having to deal with the the judicial system. And they eventually come across problems that they weren't prepared for. I've done slept with this on my bed with with the safety off, and it just still in double single action. I've done rolled and leaned over it. I done have it in my pocket all whatsoever. I even done got in a little quote unquote tussle, or swung around with somebody with this on, and it didn't go off. That's just, I guess we could just put that into the third one, just the need for less gear. You may not need a level to holster, when you just got a tight enough belt and a good enough holster, and need to go as far to make sure that that trigger is safe or doesn't get touched as much. It helps you save a lot more money as well, though, too. Especially on the type of holsters you get. I prefer Kydex. If you want to do leather, go ahead, do what you want to do. But this alone, the hammer alone, being optional on the back could save your life and a lot of time and money, and even make it easier for you to train. For example, you don't like the heavy trigger pull. Luckily it switches after one shot. With the hammer back, as I'm showing now. Next thing you know, if you literally just want to start training or you do not wish to, like I said, it's always an option. Double single actions can also get you just about prepared for any other type of trigger there is out there. If you want a revolver, if you want an AR, if you want a striker, you damn near could get, I'll say, a mixture between any of those type of triggers in terms of weight that could help prepare you in terms of you messing around and potentially just worrying about feeling as if you got to worry more about like your trigger discipline or whatever issues you may have with it. But this right here could prepare you for damn near any type of weapon you could get your hands on in terms of the trigger pull, like I said. Whether that's a 45, whether that's let's say a 40, just about any other caliber. If you want a little dual trigger, if you want a normal Kinetic light striker fired, which could be potentially too light, like I said, at least you have the option to carry in whichever way that you wish, that you could be prepared for any situation. For example, if I'm going to, let's say, this happened in real life. I wasn't armed, but for example, let's say there was an issue while my sister's at work and I'm coming to work. I would love to carry something that I know that wouldn't go off unless I wanted to, and then that also makes me feel more comfortable with a weapon, knowing that, this basically, it gives me more control, that the situation isn't going to escalate unless either he brings it there or I bring it there. It allows me to, once again, just allow me to think a little bit more before the situation, and I don't have to work or look so much at the gear or however much the gun is looking like, or the type of trigger or whatever issues I may have to come across with the fire striker. If you get in a fight with a fire striker when you're in your pocket, pocket holster or not, depending on how it's shaped, it could easily just fall or slip right out, or potentially go off on you in the middle of the scuffle. You're wearing a lever holster and someone's on top of you, and let's say it's in your pocket. His knee goes in, his knee bends, and press against that trigger, into that trigger guard. Depending on how thick it is, it might be a bullet down one or two of your legs. The extra safety precautions and just the overall more reliability, and just the ways that it could make you more adaptable to just about any other gun afterwards, is the same reason why I guess I quote-unquote glaze or mess with the trigger so heavily. Here comes some of the disadvantages. As much as I fuck with the gun overall, some of the disadvantages I'd have to say, you'd have to potentially keep higher maintenance on it. If this is something that's going to be potentially your everyday carry, you may have to worry about sweating. And once again, it's an exposed hammer. Even though you could mess with it, for its advantages and disadvantages, in terms of carrying and shooting, once again, that comes with a drawback. If this is something you feel like you're going to be potentially sweating on every day, or if you do not have the gear, or this I guess just the beaver tail on the type of gun, they all run to 9mm to 45, and depending on how they fit on you, you may or may not have to worry about that, depending on your ways around it. But I also wouldn't want to just advise you a gun just saying it's the best thing in the world, knowing that you may potentially have to, I guess, maybe wear an extra layer of shirt or a jacket over it just so the sweat doesn't directly touch your gun or cause rust issues, or not tell you that, and you may potentially have to spend or clean a little bit more just on some quote-unquote gun lube or gun cleaning products, not just the oil itself. which could be a drawback. But once again, that's something hopefully you should know beforehand, and the type of material it is. The ones I've heard that's the most sweat resistant, or you don't have to worry about rust issues, are the steel. You know, the cute quote unquote nickel slides, which they do have for this option, and you know, typically just about for most of the popular brands as well. Whether I guess you could say the 1911s, there's so many types of those, or Springfield XD, or of course the Glock. You know, like I said, there's many other options to find your way around that, but that is something to good that you know prior. I guess second one, if you're messing around with it too much and you don't keep in mind if you don't keep in mind how it works, such as for example the hammer. One thing, despite you know me saying the advantages of it, one of the things I did have to make sure I did end up slipping up on was the fact that you know I've ended up carrying it accidentally with a hammer down. Luckily, 9 times out of 10, like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's in a position, whether that's in a holster or just somewhere out in the open, where you know I could have complete control of the surroundings, you know, surrounding the firearm itself. You know, it could be safe. You know, that's once again, if depending on the situation you're in personally. But when like I said earlier, some of the advantages, you know, you may have to take less hefty precautions, such as when the hammer's down, that you could carry it in a jacket just about like that, or at least with this one in specific. Like I said, 12-pound trigger pull, you may be fine. You know, even just at least through my own personal experiences. But if this isn't something that you're not aware of, or just not used to potentially pulling down that hammer, you know, cocking it down, once again, it just increased the likelihood of potential, you know, negligent discharge. And the last thing you want is a hole somewhere you don't want to put it, which is the whole purpose of the design in the first place.